Another session of this beautiful book, The New Path by Swami Kriyananda, that is helping us go deeper in understanding what this path is, because here he's writing as a disciple of this great lineage, especially of Paramhansa Yogananda. And through him, we are getting a glimpse of what our master is really. Not really, we don't get, I mean, we cannot ever understand the true nature because it's infinite, his consciousness, but we are all trying to tap into a little bit of it. So today is also Good Friday, the day Jesus Christ was put on the cross. So, and he is also one of our line of gurus. So let us start invoking the presence of this great lineage of gurus to guide us. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, great masters of Kriya Yoga, Jesus Christ, Bhagwan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar Ji, our beloved Gurudev, Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints and sages of all religions, dear friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, humbly we bow at thy feet. O great ones, be with us here today. Guide our spiritual journey. Help us to reach our destination through this maze of lifetime after lifetime, going around. Lead us to freedom. We are thine. Be thou eternally ours. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let's do one chant. Sitting up straight, gazing up at the point between the eyebrows. Master used to say, keep calling out this way, God, Christ, Guru. He said, keep chanting like a mantra, like japa, all the time if we can. As we gaze at the point between the eyebrows, God, Christ, Guru, God, Christ, Guru. Keep calling out with love, with devotion, and wait for the response in the heart center. Tune into the consciousness of this great avatar who had incarnated on this planet at the start of or the peak of Kali Yuga to spread the teachings of Sanatan Dharma, of true religion, which is universal, which is beyond any religion. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. I'll just change my name here. So, as just a little bit brief about Master, what Master said about Jesus Christ. He was Son of God. He was Jesus, right? Christ he became because he was Son of God, like Krishna consciousness or Christ consciousness. Is this point between the eyebrows when somebody, a great soul has achieved that, then he becomes Christ, right? And all these avatars who come on this planet, it's not to show us how great they were, but to show us our true potential, right? And as I said, that the Master said that Jesus is one of our lineage of gurus. He was the one who had come to Babaji and said that my people have forgotten my true teachings. So send somebody to to send somebody to bring back my true teachings. And that is when Paramahansa Yogananda was sent to Sri Yukteswar for training, and he came to the West. And he also, one of this thing, he said, second coming of Christ. And Swami Kriyananda once asked Yogananda, were you Christ in your previous avatar? Because he said a lot of things about how, master, the way he was or the way he would give out the teachings. It always felt like probably he was Jesus Christ. And when he asked him, master said, what difference does it make? So all these great avatars come for a purpose, and it is always for love of the people who are still caught up in the delusion, right? They keep coming back again and again in various avatars. They don't need to come back. They are completely free. They are merged with God, but they come so that people can be helped. And what suffering he went through, right? He was put on the cross, and yet he goes on to say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I mean, it's that kind of love, that kind of forgiveness, even when he was suffering. That is the unconditional love of the divine that he was spreading, right? So these are the things that we need to. And Master also said that when I am gone, only love can take my place. All these avatars who come, they keep talking about love, they keep talking about forgiveness, unconditional love, where it is, it's impersonal and which are non-judgmental, and yet, it's all pervading. So that is what is our aim too. Like, we are all on the spiritual path. If we want to know what does it take to be like Yogananda, to be like Jesus Christ, to be like Lahiri Mahasaya, all of these are avatars. I mean, in fact, On Sunday will be Easter, resurrection of Jesus. Sri Yukteswara had also resurrected. Even Lahiri Mahashaya, after the body was consigned to flames, next day at 10 o'clock he visited his disciples at three different locations, three different cities. So it is not just Jesus who resurrected. All these avatars, the great sons of God, have done this. Many of the saints have done this. So. It is these are all, they all come for love of us, for to help us to understand what does it take to be free from this constant going and coming back. Okay, so the chapter we are doing chapter 21, which is Paramhansa Yogananda, and interesting that we just spoke about Swami Kriyananda asking him, was he Jesus Christ? And we are on the chapter of Yogananda. So let us here. I mean, we had done till page number 231. So from the next page, 232, let's hear Swami Kriyananda reading and then we will discuss.
Years later, it was an inspiration to see between Fay and Master a friendship truly divine. Such too was the friendship he extended to each one of us, although few, alas, ever came to appreciate so fully the extraordinary sensitivity of his gift. Each of us struggled in his own way to reconcile the apparent contradiction between this kindest, most considerate of friends, as he so often showed himself to be, and, on the other hand, one who was willing to subject us to painful lessons. For though we knew the lessons were for our good, often it was a good that awaited us beyond our present ability to understand. Yet the contradiction lay, in fact, in ourselves, between the petty demands of our egos for comfort and reassurance, and the uncompromising call to inner perfection of our souls. Master himself was completely self-integrated. Living in the impersonal spirit made him in no way indifferent to human pain. Both levels, the human and the divine, were to him parts of a single reality, the human part being merely its limited, outward manifestation. He didn't want us to ignore the human aspect, for it was this which drew us toward the divine. I remember one occasion when he was standing with a small group of us about 2 yards away from me. The thought came, he isn't really standing here with us, he is inside me. In essence, he is infinite. Just then, Master walked over to me with a quiet smile and gave me an apple. He was implying, don't be so sternly philosophical, that you reject the human aspect of our relationship. He once said to me, I prefer to work with love. I just wilt when I have to work in other ways. I myself noted, whenever he scolded me, a deep regret in his eyes at the lack of understanding on my part that had made his reprimand necessary. He reassured us, however, I scold only those who listen. I won't scold those who don't. It wasn't that he couldn't relate to us on a human level. Rather, it was that for those who wanted the most precious gift that he had to bestow, the knowledge of God, he knew he had to destroy our every egoic attachment. With other people, and with us too, when he chose to relax his discipline, he was, I think, as charming, warm-hearted, and utterly delightful a human being as ever lived. In the truest and best sense of the word, he was a noble man. Because his self-integration was flawless, divine perfection expressed itself even in his casual behavior. To some of the disciples, also, he showed complete approval and acceptance, to those who were able to relate to him truly in God. To hear him talk informally with such disciples was deeply inspiring. I think what struck me most about his relationship with them was its quiet dignity, its foundation in the fullest mutual respect. When they left together, it was as though they shared some deep inner joy, of which laughter was merely an outward expression and by no means a necessary one. Manifestly, their deepest communion together was in silence. The more I attuned myself to Master, the more deeply I came to appreciate the transcendent beauty of his inner friendship. It was a communion that needed no outward proximity for confirmation. Blessed with it, one even rejoiced when others endeavored to set themselves higher than oneself in the Guru's esteem. For one knew that egoic approval had nothing to do with that inner attunement. In some ways, I think it was his utter respect for others that impressed me the most deeply about Master. It always amazed me that someone whose wisdom and power inspired so much awe in others could be at the same time so humbly respectful to all. I had always considered respect something one gave only where it was due. And in a sense, of course, Master gave it in that spirit too. But what it meant in his case was a demonstration of deep respect because he saw God in everyone. As Master said once to Dr. Lewis, his first disciple in America, "Remember, God loves you just as much as he loves me. He is our common Father." Sometime during my second year at Mount Washington, a man came from India with a letter of introduction to Master. He asked permission to stay 2 or 3 days in the ashram. To everyone's inconvenience, those, quote, 2 or 3 days extended to many weeks. He had already extended his expected visit by more than a week when one day he sent Master a complaining letter. The food, it seemed, was too Western for his tastes. Would Paramahansaji kindly rectify the matter? Master quietly arranged for Indian-style food to be sent to him from his own kitchen. I once saw Master chat with a group of Indians after a public performance in Pasadena. One man in the group was, as the saying goes, feeling no pain. Affecting great familiarity in his drunkenness, he threw an arm around Master's shoulders and shouted playfully, as though considering the two of them old drinking buddies. Debbie, who was standing nearby, made some deprecating remark in Bengali. "Don't," Master replied in English, shaking his head a little sternly. In his eyes, this man, regardless of his temporary condition, deserved the respect due him as a child of God. A certain religious teacher in Los Angeles, a woman of considerable worldly means, once helped the Master's work financially and behaved in consequence as if she owned him. Master, as unviable a person as ever lived, continued to act only as God guided him from within. Gradually the woman developed toward him a sense of possessive jealousy, and on several occasions spoke to him venomously, hurling such insults as would have made any ordinary person her enemy. Master, however, remained unalterably calm and respectful toward her, never sharp in his replies, always kind. He was like a fruit tree in full bloom, which, when an axe is laid to its roots, showers its malefactor with sweet-smelling blossoms. The lady gradually developed high regard for him, praised him to others, and often took her friends and students to visit his centers. All her anger and jealousy became converted into ungrudging esteem. In Ranchi, India, I was told a touching story dating back to Master's return there in 1935. It seems that an anniversary banquet was planned at his school. Someone was needed to preside over the function and give it official standing. The name of Gurdas Banerjee, a prominent judge, was recommended. Widely esteemed, this man was, everyone agreed, the best possible choice. Master went to invite him. What was the master's surprise, then, when the judge coldly refused to come? He knew all about India's so-called holy men, he said. He was looking at a typical example of them right here before him. They were insincere, after people's money, a drain on the community. He had no patience with them, nor time to speak for their worthless causes. Master, though astonished by this reception, was unruffled by it. As he often told us, praise cannot make me any better, nor blame any worse. I am what I am before my conscience and God. After hearing the judge out, he replied in a friendly tone, "Well, perhaps you'll reconsider. We should be greatly honored if you would come." The principal of a local school, meanwhile, agreed to preside in the judge's stead. When everyone had assembled for the banquet that evening, and the affair was about to begin, a car drove up. Out stepped the caustic judge. Since Gurudas Banerjee was such a prominent figure in those parts, the school principal readily offered his own place to him. After the banquet, there were several preliminary reports. One dealt with the school's growth and with the number of students who had gone on after graduation to become monks and religious teachers. If the present trend continues, the report read, soon all India will be covered with our graduates spreading the ancient wisdom of our land. Then came the judge's turn to speak. Rising, he said, "Today is one of the happiest days of my life. This morning your Swami Yogananda came to visit me. I felt great joy on beholding him, but I decided to test him and see whether he was really as good a man as he looked. I spoke to him as rudely as I knew how. Yet he remained so calm and answered me so kindly that I tell you in all sincerity, he passed my test better than I would have imagined possible. And I will tell you something more. Never mind the numbers of your graduates who are becoming monks. India has many monks. But if you can produce even one such man as this, not your school only, nor only our city, but the whole country will be glorified." One of my brother disciples, acting under the spell of a violent delusion, once wrote Master a long letter filled with scathing criticism for what he imagined to be Master's faults. The letter announced his intention of leaving the ashram immediately. He must subsequently have seen his error, for he remained. One day, shortly after writing that letter, he was standing with a group of us when Master came downstairs. Seeing him, Master remarked, "You should take up writing. That was the best letter Satan ever wrote me." Master's voice, free from any resentment, held a note of genuine admiration. His humility didn't prevent him, however, from giving a strong reply sometimes, if he felt that one might prove helpful. An Orthodox minister once, incensed at the presence of an orange-robed heathen in this our most Christian land, and perturbed especially because the Master wouldn't endorse certain of his more narrow dogmas, shouted at him one day on a train, "You will go to hell!" Master, seeing the anger etched on the man's face, replied affably, "Well, I may get there by and by, but, my friend, you are there already." The passengers in the carriage had been following this dialogue with interest. At this answer, there came a general wave of laughter. Wonderful as was Master's quality of universal respect, it might be supposed that it entailed at least one disadvantage, an inability to see the funny side of what is often called the human comedy. The supposition would not be valid. In truth, I have never known anyone with a keener sense of the ridiculous. Master's capacity for amusement, as we see from the foregoing story, was lively enough to remain undaunted even when faced with what might be termed the ultimate denunciation. Under similar circumstances, most people would have been reduced to humorless anger, or at least to indignation. In the case of that fanatical minister, Master had a lesson to impart to him. He never made fun of others, however, if he thought that doing so might inflict unnecessary pain on them. Herein, indeed, lay a fundamental difference between his sense of humor and most people's. For that performance at Pasadena, which I touched on a few paragraphs back, his presumptuous guest from India had somehow managed to grab star billing as a Hindu dancer. As far as I know, the only actual dancing he'd ever done was in the boxing ring, where he'd achieved a certain measure of success. His large physique, however, was impressive. When he announced that he intended to dance, it was understood by everyone that he meant business. His performance that evening was planned to portray a deer being stalked by a hunter. Assuming both roles to himself, he alternately lumbered through his representation of the deer gambolling playfully in forest glades, and stalked ferociously through tall grasses as the hunter. Presently it became clear that he wasn't keeping in time with the music. This realization finally dawned on him, too, and of course only one explanation would do. It had to be the orchestra. It wasn't following him. Indignantly he instructed the players to suspend their playing, then strode down to the footlights and apologized for the musicians' lack of musicianship. They aren't professionals, he explained gravely. Thereafter, every time his playful gambolling took him past where they sat ranged against the back of the stage, he waved his arms and hands, urging them in a fierce undertone to keep the time. Master and I, seated together, were in paroxysms of mirth. Tears streamed down our cheeks, though we managed fairly well to keep from laughing out loud. "Don't," squeaked Master unsteadily when I let slip a muffled guffaw. Well, the hunter finally shot his deer. Had we reached the end? By no means. The poor creature still had to be portrayed, writhing about the stage in agony. After many minutes, the deer gasped its last and sprawled full length on the forest floor. There followed a little scattered applause, less, I'm sure, from a desire to congratulate the dancer than from a sense of relief. Relief was premature, however. The hunter was still alive. Leaping up now in his alternate role, our boxer flung the deer over his shoulders and began a sort of victory cakewalk. Already we knew he had no sense of timing. Now it appeared that he also lacked a sense of time, for his performance gave evidence of reaching out to embrace eternity. Through tears of laughter we finally saw one of the musicians glance off stage and make a lowering motion with his hand. The curtain began to fall. The hunter, poised in yet another victory stance, saw it coming and shot a furious glance off stage. Immediately he began to move in that direction. The last we saw of him was his legs, from the knees downward, striding with grim purpose off stage, to give the hapless stagehand a piece of his mind. Master had laughed as heartily this evening as I ever saw him laugh. Yet he showed no inclination afterward to discomfit his guest. Such indeed is the nature of pure joy. Though good-humoured, it is always kindly. When the man complained later at his mistreatment, Master's mood was gently consoling. "I understand," he said. And he did, too. He understood all aspects of the matter. He could feel the man's indignation and sympathize with it on its own level, though he knew it was founded on a delusion. Master described divine consciousness as, quote, "center everywhere, circumference nowhere," end quote. His sympathy for the, quote, performer was completely sincere. But then it was his sympathy for all of us, in our multifarious delusions, that inspired his lifelong labor of teaching, counseling, and self-sacrifice on our behalf. He once said, "Divine Mother has a good sense of humor." One day in Chicago, a drunken stranger staggered up and embraced him affectionately. "Hello there, Jesus Christ." Master smiled. Then, to give the man a taste of the infinitely better spirits he himself enjoyed, he looked deeply into the man's eyes and gave him a taste of divine joy. "Say," the fellow cried thickly, "what are you drinking?" Master replied, his eyes twinkling, "Let's just say it has a lot of kick in it." The man was sobered by this glance. I left him, Master told us later, wondering what had happened. Is it not particularly interesting that this man should have addressed Master as Jesus Christ? The Master's olive-colored skin, black hair, and brown eyes didn't at all correspond to the popular Nordic image of a blue-eyed, blonde Jesus. Master, moreover, kept no beard. A woman whom I once met at an SRF Center meeting in New York described a reaction similar to that man's. "I bought a painting," she told me, in an old, dusty, second-hand store. It was a portrait, but I didn't know who the subject was. I just knew his eyes inspired me. I used to think of him as Jesus Christ. Placing the painting on my mantelpiece, I prayed daily in front of it. Years later, I came upon an autobiography of a yogi. The moment I saw Master's photograph on the cover, I recognized him as the very man in that painting. Another woman, a member of our Hollywood congregation, told me, "I used to pray deeply to God to draw me closer to him. One day I had a vision of someone I'd never seen before. A voice said, 'Christ is coming.' Shortly thereafter, a friend brought me to this church for the first time. Master was conducting the service. The moment I saw him, I said to my friend, 'Why, that's the very face I saw in my vision.' Another member of our Hollywood church told me, years before I knew anything about Master, my husband and I happened to catch a glimpse of him through a restaurant window. 'Look at that man,' I exclaimed. 'He must be the most spiritual human being I've ever seen.' Years later I met Master and knew him immediately for that very man. Even as a boy, the Master's magnetism was extraordinary. Dr. Nagendranath Das, a Calcutta physician and lifelong friend, visited Mount Washington in July 1950. He told us, wherever Paramahansaji went, even as a boy, he attracted people. His father, a high railway official, often gave travel passes. No matter where we traveled, within minutes after we descended from the train, a group of boys would gather around us. Part of the basis for Master's amazing charisma was the fact that, seeing his infinite beloved in everyone, he awakened them to an inchoate belief in their own goodness. With the impersonality of true greatness, he never accepted the thought others projected onto him that he was essentially different from them. Bernard, upon whom Master had been urging some difficult undertaking, remonstrated one day, "Well, sir, you can do it. You're a master." "And what do you think made me a master?" the Guru demanded. "It was by doing. Don't cling to the thought of weakness if your desire is to become strong." There was a devotee, Master once told us, who was sitting before the image of his Guru, chanting and casting flowers onto it as an expression of his devotion. His concentration became so deep that suddenly he beheld the whole universe contained within his own consciousness. "Oh," he cried, "I have been placing flowers on another's image, and now I see that I, untouched by this body, am the sustainer of the universe. I bow to myself and he began to throw the flowers onto his own head. Oh, when Master Sri Yukteswar told me that story, I was so thrilled I went into Samadhi. Footnote. Samadhi, cosmic consciousness, is the state of infinite awareness that comes to the yogi once the hypnosis of ego has been broken. Christian saints have sometimes described this state as mystical marriage, for in it the soul merges into God, becoming one with him. Master continued, that devotee wasn't speaking from ego, rather he was rejoicing in the death of his ego. This was the relationship Master sought ever to establish with us, a relationship wherein we realized with our entire being that we too were that. Leo Cox, one of the younger monks, used to take photographs of Master whenever he could. The walls of his room became papered over with them. Why do you keep on taking photographs of this physical form? Master demanded of him one day. What is it but flesh and bones? Get to know me in meditation if you want to know who I really am. And once, when we were serving him, he remarked, you are all so kind to me with your many attentions. Karl Frost, one of the disciples present, exclaimed, oh, no, Master, it is you who are kind to us. God is helping God, Master replied, with a sweet smile. That is the nature of his cosmic drama. The closer we drew to him spiritually, the less he sought to teach us by words. I prefer to speak with the eyes, he once told me. He never wanted to impose his instructions on us from without. His method of teaching was, rather, to help us dig wells of intuitive insight within ourselves. The closer we felt to him, the closer we came to knowing our own true self, the God within us.
There's so many beautiful stories and so many insights in this chapter. So we saw the relationship that Daya Mata developed. I mean, over when she understood that what he shared with her was not a personal relationship, but he was one with God. So she had to, in her love has to be love for God, and she sees him as a channel for that God's love. And that was a beautiful relationship. Once she realized that he was, Swamiji says that that is what then the new ones who had come would witness that beautiful relationship they both shared. Okay, so now he says Master himself was completely self-integrated. Completely self-integrated means body, mind, soul. They were all in perfect harmony with each other. All of us, I mean, if we are all still here and not yet in samadhi, is because that integration is not there somewhere. It is lacking in some form. Uh, and Master said that the main problem is the spiritual ignorance. We've forgotten who we really are. We are not this body, but who we really are. We are a spark of God. We are His children, and we have forgotten that. And in that, we are so attached to this ego that that there is a disharmony between what we are versus what we think we are, right? So that is the whole spiritual path is about the self integration, where there is this perfect union yoga, where body, mind, soul is in perfect harmony. So he says, living in the impersonal spirit made him in no way indifferent. So he was living in that spirit, but yet that doesn't mean that he didn't understand what the regular human beings are going through. It wasn't like he was indifferent to it. He understood it from our perspective, right? That is a difference. I mean, many of us, we will judge the other person, but for them, an avatar is somebody who has, like in the later part when Bernard said that you can do it because you are master, and he says, what do you think made me a master? What do you think made me a master is in doing, which means They have gone through it all the struggles that we are going through right now. They have been through this, and in doing what is needed, they have reached a stage where they are completely free. So they understand us, they understand where we are coming from, because they have been there. There is no judging us. They understand, and that is the relationship. That's why he understands if we are suffering, we are in pain. He understands. I mean, he knows, this is all a dream, and we are so caught up, but he understands our being caught up also. He's our true friend, right? So, so he says he didn't want us to ignore the human aspect. Where Swamiji says that, here he's sitting and saying, oh, he's here, but he's not here. He's really within me. And as last time also I mentioned, Swamiji said it's much easier for you all because, after Master took Mahasamadhi, we have not met him. So it's easy to relate to him as this cosmic consciousness. But for, them, it was difficult because Master had a physical body. He looked like any of us, a regular human being, yet he wasn't that. So there was a lot of contradictions in their mind. Not that. And Master, that is why he came to him and said, don't be so sternly philosophical that you reject the human aspect of our relationship. He related to us in that level also, wherever we are, right? And this is so beautiful. He says, I prefer to work with love. I just wilt when I have to work with the other way. And he says, whenever he scolded me, there was a deep regret in his eyes. Why? Not because he was feeling, oh, why am I love this guy. Why am I scolding him? Because he says, at the lack of understanding on my part that had made him his reprimand necessary. It was needed. He was not going to back off. As in the last page we saw that he was the truest friend. He loved dearly. Yet when, for our own spiritual growth, he wasn't going to back off. He was going to give it big, if it will help us to grow spiritually. So, and again, but he said that I don't scold those who don't listen. I will only scold those who listen. So this is very important. I scold only those who listen. I won't scold those who don't. It is a very important lesson for each one of us also. I mean, when we go through, we are disciples of Yogananda, and we find there is some obstacle in something or something happening. uh, the more we take it as, this is something Master is allowing to come to us, maybe there is a lesson for me. The more we open to him that way, he will demonstrate, he will let us understand why we are going through that, so that we can learn that lesson quickly and get off, move faster on the spiritual path. So this is very important. And then, since we are, Master is also acting through channels. So those who are channels of Master, who are there guiding us, it's good to listen to them also, because they are acting as channels, right, for us. Okay, it wasn't that he couldn't relate to us on a human level. Other than that, for those who wanted the most precious gift that he had to offer, the knowledge of God, he knew he had to destroy our every egoic attachment. That is his only purpose, to break our emotion, egoic attachments. And for that, whatever needs to be done, he will do it. So he says he says that in the truest and best sense of the word, he was a noble man, a noble. We associate noble with somebody who is aristocratic, who has a lot of money, and then we'll say, oh, he's noble. Here, Swamiji writes, he is a noble man, somebody who is self-integrated, who lived dharma, who lived who was a pure channel of God. That is being noble, because his self integration was flawless, divine perfection expressed itself even in his casual behavior. This is so beautiful. Because his self integration was flawless, divine perfection expressed itself even in his casual behavior. And he says to some of his disciples also, he showed complete approval and acceptance to those who were able to relate to him truly in God. That is how we need to relate to our master. It's a friendship in God. So he will help us in mundane things also, but then, we should not reduce him to, just do help me do this, help me in this, help me in that. We have to rise to that level where the relationship, the friendship is equal. On, we come to that his level, what he is wanting of us. And when Swamiji is talking about those disciples who did, like Saint Lin, who later came to be known as Rajrishi Janakananda, Sister Gyan Mata, with them, he says, to hear him talk informally with such disciples was deeply inspiring. And I think what struck me was most about his relationship with them was in quiet dignity, its foundation in the fullest mutual respect. It wasn't like, oh, I'm the guru, you are my disciple. He gave them equal respect because it was God talking to God, right? It was, he was relating to their highest potential, and they were also, in that level. They were trying to rise to match his level. So that was a beautiful relationship, as Swamiji says. When they laughed together, it was as though they shared some deep inner joy, of which laughter was merely an outward expression, he says, and by no means a necessary one. And most of the time, they related to each other in silence. And Swamiji says, the more I attuned myself to Master, the more deeply I came to appreciate the transcendent beauty of his inner friendship. His friendship is to our soul. The more we try to attune to him, what does Master want me to do? In any situation, every day, every moment, every decision, what is it that Master wants me to do in this situation? The more we tune into him, the more we are free, the more we feel his inner friendship, what how he wants. And he says that it was a communion that needed no outward proximity for confirmation, where he says that um, blessed with it, one even rejoiced when others endeavored to set themselves higher than oneself in the Guru's esteem, for one knew their egoic approval had nothing to do with their inner attunement. This is very important. It was some people, I was reading in that book, God Alone, Sister Gyan Mata's letters and all, where Master and Sister Gyan Mata would never even talk to each other much. Others, the master would come back from one of his tour and they all would rush down saying, Master has come, Master has come. I mean, for her, there was no the physical distance or not, or being together was not, there was no difference between the two. She was so completely in tune with Master. She would never rush down saying, Master has come. She said, Master was that, he is not gone anywhere, right? He was always with me. And that was a beautiful relationship they both shared. They will be in the same room, and she'll just be smiling, he will be smiling too, and they would be communicating at that level. It was a beautiful relationship. I do read that book. It's a beautiful book, her letters to Master. So that is what, and that's what he's saying, that egoic approval, trying to show yourself as like, I Master, I am following you. He knows. He knows. And it doesn't need those outer expressions of love for him. Because his friendship to us is inward. The more we tune into him, the more we will feel it, right? His relationship is always there. It's us who need to feel it. We have to open ourselves. Okay. And here he says that must he was humbly respectful, whether people, they had their own limitations. Master gave it in that spirit too, that what it means in his case was a demonstration of deep respect, because he saw God in everyone. So even though people were still delusional, but he related to them at their highest potential. He wouldn't bring, come down to that level where they were at the moment. He understood, and he was always inspiring that higher thing in that other person, where he says that now Swamiji is talking about that man who had come, and that person who called him Jesus Christ, and the person who put his hand and made, he wasn't being respectful. Master was just taking it. I mean, there when Devi said something, Master said, don't say that, because he didn't want to bring that down. He always saw everyone as children of God. So there, Devi, Nayaswami Devi was telling one of her, I mean, interaction here when she was here, that somebody had written a letter to Jyotish and Devi saying, how bad they were and how they had done so many mistakes, and, they were conducting things so badly. And so they felt very bad about it. And they had to go for this satsang with Swamiji, and they went and they were still feeling very bad. And they spoke to him. They got an opportunity to speak to him and saying that, they showed what they wanted to really say, not because look what this person has written, but they wanted to understand, is this really right? I mean, do we need to course correct something? Are we really not doing it right? And Deviji said, that's a beautiful reply. Swamiji said, he said, you are doing the best for who you are. So then Deviji said, that means that man was wrong, the person who was written. He said, he is doing the best for who he is. The person, wherever he was in his consciousness, he was doing the best for who he is. He understood that. He said, and you are doing the best for who you are. That's all. So that is where Master was relating to everyone. He understood they are there where they are, and he understood their predicament or where they are, and he took them from there. But he wasn't relating to them at their level. He was always relating to them as children of God. And so here, that lady who's just because she had donated a lot, thought that she owned him, and she was also being very mean with him. The way she was talking, there was no ego. So Master didn't take an offense. He's saying anybody else would have become her enemy, but Master didn't. Right? He still treated her with respect. It's like this story in India. Master used to talk about this saint, and he had this person who used to always criticize him and always talk bad about this saint. And you know, one day that man died. So the saint's disciples came running to him. They were very happy. They said, "Oh, you're the guy who used to keep, they're talking against you and criticizing you. He's dead." And the saint started crying. He said he was my best friend because he always used to correct me in his criticism. I was always, I always made sure that I wasn't making any mistakes. So he was my best friend. He started crying. That is, I mean, anybody else would have taken, I mean, all the time that guy was criticizing. But saints, they're so humble. They related to everyone in a very different way than what we would normally, a worldly man would normally do. Okay, here, Master says, when that judge, when he had gone to invite him to become the chief guest of the school's event, and the judge spoke rudely to him, says, Master said, praise cannot make me any better, nor blame any worse. I am what I am before my conscience and God. I mean, this is such a beautiful statement, and something that we also need to remember. Where when we meet all kinds of people, and there are people very difficult. Some people say they're very rude to us, insult us. It's good to remember this when we face anything. We are all we need to do is I am what I am before my conscience and God. It's okay to, if somebody is saying, just to see introspect and see if there is some speck of truth in what they're saying. And if yes, but for that introspection to happen, we need to be very truthful to ourselves. And if we find yes, there is some speck of truth, then we try to correct ourselves. But we are only answerable to God. That's very important. So nothing, as Master always used to say, be even-minded in all circumstances. Even-minded and cheerful in all circumstances, right? So this judge actually arrives, and then what he beautifully says that never mind the numbers of your graduates who are becoming monks. India has many monks, but if you can produce even one such man as this, not your school only, not only our city, but our whole country will be glorified. I mean, this is what is the need of the hour, right? And as disciples of Yogananda, that should be our aim. We right now, we are all disciples of Yogananda. We are his representatives. So how the world sees us is very important. We each one of us is a beacon of light who are, like, as Krishna, it said that like Krishna's soldiers were like Krishna, were like Krishna, which means they all look like him, they all function like him. So we all also, our aim should be that. So that is why attunement, as Swamiji would keep saying, is very important. How it's not just about, how do you be like Yogananda? What would Yogananda do in a situation? I mean, this situation where this man was very rude to him. He was only testing him, but he was very rude to him. How did Yogananda respond to that? What did he say? Praise cannot, make me any better. So these are the points, that these are the salient features of Yogananda that we have to imbibe. First, maybe just imitate, because we might not yet be that way. So we might feel angry, but then again, get back to how would Yogananda, what did Yogananda do in the situation? Try to imitate. Slowly, it will become a part of our nature too. The more we start doing that. And here, where he said, one of the brother who monk who had written a scathing letter to master, he says, you should take up writing. That was the best letter Satan ever wrote me. But again, Swamiji says that there was no resentment. He was not like, how can you write such a letter? He says it was a note of genuine admiration. So and again, he's saying that his humility didn't prevent him, however, from giving a strong reply. Why would he give a strong reply? If he felt that one might prove uh, helpful, he would say only if it is going to help the other person, right? Um, like that man who, I mean, he, again, the man who said that, you will go to hell. And master said, I will go there by and by, but you are already there, my friend. Everybody laughed. But again, Swamiji is saying that he wouldn't have done this if he didn't feel that man needed it. To understand, again, heaven and hell is all within us, in our mind. When being on a path, I'm no being on a following a religion, I'm following a spiritual path. But if mentally we are judging people, we are accusing people, we are constantly, there is a fight going on in our mind, and separation, then we are in hell. There is no um, two ways for that. So we need to be very cautious about this. Just because Sri Yukteswar always used to say that learn to behave. Just because you are following a spiritual path doesn't mean that you can behave however you want to. It's all the more reason that you need to behave properly. So these are the things that are very important. And he's saying that master had a lesson to impact to him. That is why he allowed that, and he saw a sense that he had a sense of humor. I mean, anybody else would have, he's saying, that either got very angry or indignant, but master saw the human comedy. And again, he would have even kept quiet, but this man needed to be taught a lesson, so he did. So he says that is where the difference between his sense of humor and that of most people. Because many people, like, when we are in a group or something, they'll make one person a target, and, easy person target, and they make fun of them in a so called light-hearted banter, not really caring whether the other person is liking it or not, it all in a sense of humor. But that's not, as Master Swamiji writes, Master wouldn't make fun, it was sense of, he would laugh with people, not at people. So if the same thing were to happen to us, will we take it nicely? It's easy to laugh at others, but will we take it nicely? I mean, what would, if the same situation was reversed? If I will not take it lightly, then it's better not to laugh at the other person. So that's the important point. Laughing with them versus laughing at them. Nobody likes it, right? To be laughed at, even if they might not show it at the moment. Okay, and here we are in page 238, where Master, um, where it's that the guy who was doing this whole drama of being the deer and the hunter. Swamiji says we were laughing, but he never. The moment he met that guy, Master was up. He says that yet he showed no inclination afterwards to discomfit his guest. Such indeed is the nature of pure joy. Though good humor, it is always kindly. Again, this is very important. Sense of humor has to be kind, right? When the man complained later of his mistreatment, Master's mood was gently consoling. I understand, he said, and he did too. He understood all aspects of the matter. He could feel the man's indignation and sympathize. Why? As he said, Master described divine consciousness as center everywhere, circumference nowhere. It is in everyone. It can relate to everyone at their level. So all of us are center everywhere. We think we are this little, this person that we are seeing ourselves on the screen is all who we are. We aren't. It's Master said that the our consciousness is to the outer edge of this creation or much beyond. It's just in our mind we have put a limitation to who we are. That's why divine consciousness is centered in each one of us. Circumference nowhere. There's no boundary to it. We create those boundaries. Okay, but then it was his sympathy for all of us in our multifarious delusions that inspired his lifelong labor of teaching, counseling, and self-sacrifice on our behalf. He once said, Divine Mother has a good sense of humor. He is here only to help us. Right? I was listening to Asha Nayaswami, one of her talks, and that's what she was saying that, when Asha was saying that, how can this person talk like she was feeling very upset about somebody. And Swamiji said that if I were to start getting upset about everything that, people are doing, and I would have no friends because a lot of people say a lot of things. So it is an expansion in that love, forgiving, and understanding where that person is, their consciousness is where we can, be like we can aspire to reach, move forward in our spiritual journey. Okay, so again, again and again, Swamiji is telling about the various different stories about people who see, when they see Master, they keep calling him Jesus Christ or see Jesus Christ. Whereas Swamiji is saying he doesn't even look like him. Outer physically, Master has this Indian look, and Jesus Christ is depicted in all this as this blue-eyed and Nordic image. Yet there is something about him that people relate to him. Even that drunk man calls him Jesus Christ. And this lady also brings a picture, prays to him. I mean, and it's all about that eyes, right? So all of us, we all, when we see the picture, image of Master, it's this eyes. There's something about his eyes. When somebody first sees autobiography, when Swamiji first saw that, it was the eyes that drew him to that. There is something. So these people, without even knowing who he was, were relating him to Jesus Christ, that avatar, who, I mean, for them, he was their God, right? They were all Christians and they related to him. And for us, whatever form we want to think of him, he is that. He is the Divine Mother. He is the Krishna. He is the divine, he's the Heavenly Father. Whoever we want to relate to, it was him, right? Because the divine, when it flows, when somebody is a pure channel for the divine, they relate to us just as we see them as, right? If a saint in a temple is able to the image, the stone image, manifest itself in a physical form. Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to see Kali. She would run around into the house as a little girl because he saw her as that. The divine would come to him as that. So whatever we saw, we because many of us can't even imagine God as a formless thing, because God is everything, all the images that we see God as, and nothing at all, right? And beyond that. But we can't get to that level. So God comes to us in the form that we want. So all of them were relating to him as Jesus Christ, because that is what they knew as, form of God they were relating to. And when we read that, as a boy also Master's magnetism was extraordinary. And where that's what we had already discussed, where Bernard said that, you can do it because you are a master. And Master said, what do you think made me a master? He had, don't cling to the thought of weakness if your desire is to become strong. Master used to say, a wrestler is not going to become a topmost wrestler by wrestling with a baby. He has to fight against a tough guys, right? So we who are on the spiritual path, karmas that come to us, they come to us to make us stronger. What Master allows us, the karmas to come, is to make us stronger. So that's why Master said a wrestler doesn't become strong just by fighting with the baby. We have to become strong. So if we take it as that, then we come out stronger on the spiritual journey. And so yeah, that's it, I think. This is again the story, right? When somebody, one of the brother monks who used to keep taking pictures of Master, and Master demanded, "What is it but flesh and bones? Get to know me in meditation if you want to know who I really am." So again, this is a very important indication. It's an important lesson for us who came on the path after Master has left his body. If we all feel, oh, Master is not in the body, Swamiji met Master, these people met Master, how do I relate to Master? He has given a very important lesson to all of us. If you want to know me in your meditation, which means we need to meditate first. Do the techniques that he tells and try to, we call out to him, we invoke his presence. He will reveal himself. He will reveal, he will help us in finding God. But that's, so the body is not, it's not a limited thing for them, for the avatars. So if we want to, so attunement, Swamiji, when towards the end of his life, somebody asked, what do you think is the most important thing on this path? And they thought Master Swamiji will say, do more Kriya, do 108 Kriya, do this. He said, attunement to the Guru. That's all. So this is what it is. Know me in your meditation, practicing his presence, where Swamiji said, the more I attuned to him, the more freer he was. God and Master always used to, he would relate to everyone. When the monks are helping him, he said, God is helping God. He would never take it upon himself that I am the Guru and you guys have to serve me. He always used to look at them as, he would relate to everyone as God. God in those expressions that he saw. That is the nature of his cosmic drama. And this is beautiful. His method of teaching was rather to help us dig wells of intuitive insights within ourselves. The closer we felt to him, the closer we came to knowing our own true self, the God within us. So this is important to help us dig wells of intuitive insight within us. And that can happen only when we go within, when we meditate, when we live through from our center. Otherwise, it's, that calm center is when the intuitive insights can come. He is sending them, but we have to cooperate in that process. The spiritual journey is all about, the disciple cooperating with God and gurus. That's the most important. Being receptive is what is cooperating with them. This was a beautiful story. And this footnote that Swamiji mentioned, that samadhi, what is samadhi? He says, even Christian saints who didn't know what is yoga, what we have grown up with hearing these things, even though we might not understand. The Christian saints have sometimes described the state of samadhi as mystical marriage, which, in our this thing, Hinduism, we talk about Shakti and, coming up and, communing with Shiva. And that's when we say Ardhanareshwar. This is something we have heard stories of, but here they experienced it. They didn't even know all these things. But in their true, communion with God, they experienced this as the marriage, the mystical marriage of soul with the divine, the spirit. Radha with Krishna, Shakti with Shiva. I mean, this is a beautiful thing. And for us, it's easier because we are being told what it is. But the whole point is, they are just words. They are just images for us. Unless we experience it and, we meditate and go deep in our practices to experience these states. So with that, we come to the end of this chapter. We will take up the next chapter in the next class.
Thank you, Jayanti. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jayanti.
Thank you, Jayanti.